Hello friends, today we will discuss the important topic called Marx versus Weber on capitalism. So let us start now. So we'll start with Marx on capitalism. Marx on capitalism, it is based on monocausal determinism. Monocausal means single cause, and determinism, that means a doctrine that tells that something is decided by external factors, not by a person's own will. Now, Karl Marx argues that the economy is the base, that means foundation, on which social life rests. The economic base or infrastructure comprises a certain mode of production and certain forces and relations of production. We have to remember these terms. The mode of production is not the same everywhere and at all times. It changes during the course of human history. It is this economic infrastructure, that means base, that shapes other social subsystems, which are termed as superstructures like political structure, religion, values, and culture. Marx has outlined four stages of human history. These are the primitive communalism stage, the ancient stage based on slavery, third one is the feudal stage, and fourth one is the capitalist stage. All these stages we have discussed in Marx chapter, so you can take the help of that one. Now, the study of human history in terms of stages, each with its own distinct mode of production, forms the basis of Marxian theory of historical materialism. So we have already discussed these terms in Marx chapter, so one can go through that one. Now, each stage follow logically from the previous one. This is because each stage contains certain inner contradictions or tension. These inner contradictions and tensions eventually break the system down, and new stage emerges from the womb of the old. Now, what Marx says about the capitalism is? Capitalism is a stage in human history. The stage of capitalism, according to the Marx, is not a natural outcome of the contradiction. According to Marx, is a natural outcome. It's a natural outcome of the contradictions within the feudal system. The feudal order was marked by the oppression of serfs by the feudal lords. Serfs means landless laborers, that we call as tenants, and feudal lord means owners of the land in rural areas. The tension within the system led to the breakdown of the feudalism, freeing large number of tenants from the feudal lands. The growing towns absorbed these people. A labor force thus became available for product manufacture. The development of new machines, the birth of factory system, and the mass production of goods consolidated the new economic system called the capitalism. Basically, these were the outcomes of industrial revolution. That was the cause of industrial revolution. Now, Marx views capitalism from a historical perspective. Marx doesn't consider individual members of the society as the focus of history. He speaks in terms of whole society. To him, capitalism is a stage in the development of human society, which arises from the contradictions of an earlier stage. To him, capitalism is a stage in the development of human society which arises from the contradictions of the earlier stage. The contradictions inherent in the capitalist society will set the stage for the development of ideal society. The communist society, which will be the free of the contradictions and tension of the earlier stage. So Marx term that ideal society as a communist society, which will be free of the contradictions and tension of the earlier stages. So this was the imagination of Karl Marx. Now let us study about the term capitalism. According to Marx, the main features of capitalism, the production of sales in the market rather than for self-use. Second point is the existence of market where labor power is bought and sold. Workers are recognized in the form of their labor power, which they are forced to sell at the meager wages. So Marx is telling about the exploitation of the working class in capitalism, like exploitation of serfs in feudalism by the feudal lords, landowners. Third point is exchange takes place through money. In capitalism, money is the bond that ties together various elements in the capitalist system. Hence, the role of banks and financial institutions becomes important in the capitalism. Fourth point is the capitalist control the production process. Capitalists not only decide the fate of workers but also decides what is to be produced, the composition of raw materials and machines, and the manner in which the output is to be marketed. Fifth one is the capitalist control financial decisions. Decisions regarding the pricing of the product, wages of the worker, the amount of financial investment, and so on are taken by the capitalist. Now let us study about the term competition. Since the whole idea of capitalism is production of sales to maximize the profit, there is bound to be competition between the capitalists. Competition would result in the formation of monopolies or cartels, where a single producer or group of producers try to dominate the market by pushing or forcing out competitors. This would lead to further concentration and centralization of capital in few hands. Capitalism thus is a system which, according to Marx, symbolizes the most acute form of exploitation, inequality, and polarization of the classes. By this, he meant that the social distance between the owners and the means of production, that is bourgeoisie, of the distance between the owners of the means of production, that means bourgeoisie, that means capitalist, and the working class, that is proletariat, becomes greater and greater. Capitalism and class conflict. According to Marx, the history of human society is the history of class struggle. Each stage in human society is marked by the division of society into two groups, the haves and the have-nots, those who dominate and those who are oppressed. So haves dominate and have-nots are oppressed section of the society. The very foundation on which capitalism survives are the existence of private property, mass production of commodities under the factory system for the profit, and the existence of working class that is forced to sell its labor power in the market for meager wages for survival, lead to the polarization of class. So we have to remember these terms. As capitalism progresses, these class divisions become wider. The interest of the bourgeoisie and the proletariat become more and more separate. The proletariat becomes unified. After all, they share the same problems and begin to seek the same solution. A class in itself becomes a class for itself. So we have already discussed these terms in Marx chapter. So one can go through that. The revolution of the proletariat will, according to Marx, bring in a new stage of history, that is communism, where the owners of the means of production will be the workers themselves. The contradictions of the capitalism will be overcome and a new social order will be born. So all this were the imagination of the Marx. So Marx, imagination, and nothing has happened till now. Now let us study about the Max Weber on capitalism. Max Weber was often called as the bourgeoisie Marx, to reflect the similarity in the intellectual interest of the Marx and Weber, as well as their very different political orientation. So Max Weber and Marx were similar on intellectual aspects but differed on political orientations. So we have to remember these terms. Max Weber takes an independent and more complex view of the capitalism. Weber speaks of a special kind of capitalism named the rational capitalism. Rational capitalism, according to him, is a uniquely Western development. By the West, we refer to the West Europe and North America. This is because the idea of rationality and the process of rationalization too are distinctively Western. Rationalization means an attempt by humans to control the environment by organizing and coordinating human activities in certain regular and predictable manner. Events are not left to the chance or to the nature. Through the use of science and technology, written rules, laws, human activity is systematized. That is called rationalization of the society. According to Weber, rationalization has been most distinctive feature of Western civilization. It is rationality which marks out a number of distinct traits or features which are not to be found at one and the same time anywhere else in the world. This feature includes, first one is science, a body of verifiable knowledge well developed in the West. Second point is a rational state with a specialized institution, written laws, and a constitution which regulates political activity. Third one is art, like Western music, organized and methodological, dynamic and competitive. Composers are the entrepreneurs in the world of music. Fourth one, economy, which is characterized by rational capitalism. Modern or rational capitalism is not restricted to the production and sales of just a few luxurious or rare commodities. It includes everything. The ordinary goods in everyday use, from bread to clothes to utensils and tools. Unlike traditional capitalism, rational capitalism is dynamic and constantly expanding. New innovations, new methods of production, and new products are constantly being invented. Rational capitalism depends on the mass production and distribution. Goods must be exchanged in a predictable and repeatable way. Business is no longer seen as gamble. The modern capitalist does not sell a few products to a few people at high cost. The idea is to have a plenty of customers buying plenty of goods which all can afford. So it's based on mass production and mass consumption. The basic principle underlying the modern capitalism, according to the Weber, is the rational organization of productive enterprises, which supplies society with its everyday wants. Factor responsible for rational capitalism in Europe: private ownership of material resources necessary for production, that is land, machines, raw material, factory buildings, etc. Second, free market. There should be no restrictions on the flow of trade. Political situations should be more or less peaceful. This will allow economic activity to go on undisturbed. Third one, rational techniques of production and distribution of goods. This includes the use of machines to speed up production and the application of science and technology in production and distribution of commodities so that greater number and variety of goods may be produced with maximum efficiency. Fourth one, rational legislation. There should be a system of laws which applies to all members of the society. This would simplify the making of economic contracts. Each individual would have certain legal obligations and rights which would be codified or written down. Free labor force. Laborers have the legal freedom to work where and when they want to. Their relationship with the employers is contractual, not obligatory. However, though legally free, Weber, like Marx, is aware that economic compulsions and sheer hunger will make them work. Their freedom is the formal freedom only. In practice, necessity dictates that they work. Commercialization of economy. To make rational capitalism possible, there must be opportunities for everyone to participate in an enterprise. Individual can buy stocks, shares, bonds, etc., and thus becomes part of enterprises. Religious and cultural ethos. Weber found that the majority of the leading businessmen, professionals, and bureaucrats of that time were Protestants. In his famous work, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, we have already discussed this one. Weber has argued that Calvinism on the Protestant sects notion of calling resulted in relentless pursuit of hard work and the optimum use of time. Individuals led a highly disciplined and organized lifestyle. Constant self-control through systematic effort of the will resulted in the rationalization of individual conduct. This reflected in the way business was conducted. Profits were not wasted on the worldly pleasures. They were reinvested so that they could be purposefully used to further expand business. Thus, this worldly asceticism, you have to remember this word, that Protestantism preached led to rational organization of everyday affairs. Asceticism or rigorous discipline and self-control were no longer restricted to monks or priests. It became mantras of ordinary human beings who sought to discipline both themselves and the environment. The idea of mastery over the environment was an important idea which characterized capitalism. In this manner, the ethos or the worldview promoted by the Protestant ethic helps to shape rational capitalism. Now, let us see what Weber has said about the future of rational Western world. The iron cage. UPSC has asked question on this iron cage of rationality, so we have to go through that. Weber views rationality as a key process of Western civilization. The rationalization of the economy, polity, cultures, and day-to-day exercise will have important applications. Rationalization will lead to the disenchantment of the world. We have to remember this term disenchantment. What does it mean by? Because science seems to have answers for almost everything, human beings will lose their reverence and awe for the world. Rationalization of day-to-day life will trap human beings into routines. Life will become mechanical, predictable, and systematic, and hence dull. This will have the effect of making human beings less creative and reluctant to break routines and schedule. Human beings will get caught in a prison of their own making, an iron cage from which there seems to be no escape. So Weber seems to be pessimistic about the future. Iron cage of rationality. Weber paints a gloomy picture of the future. Rationality, which reflects in economic and political structures, will make life routinized and monotonous. Because human beings have explanation for almost everything, the life is to be interesting and exciting. Human beings will thus be trapped in an iron cage of their own making. Marx versus Weber on capitalism. Marx sees the emergence of capitalism in terms of shift in mode of production. To him, the economy or the material world is the infrastructure or the base foundation, which molds the other subsystems like culture, religion, polity, and the like. So, a change in the system is seen primarily as a change in economic system. Max Weber was often called the bourgeoisie Marx to reflect the similarity in the intellectual interest of the Marx and Weber as well as their very different political orientation. Weber's analysis is much more complex based on causal pluralism, and Marx was based on monocausal determinism. Monocausal determinism. Weber's analysis is not only includes economic factors but also factors like religious belief and cultural ethos, Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism. For Marx, capitalism symbolizes exploitation, dehumanization, and alienation of the working class. It is a system based on inequality and will ultimately break down. This breakdown will be brought about by its own inner contradictions. The proletariat will bring about a revolution and thus a new stage of human history, namely the communism will be born. Thus Marx is optimistic about the future. For Weber too, rational capitalism is basically alienative for human society. Rational capitalism and the rational bureaucratic state go hand in hand. Human life gets routinized. Human beings experience disenchantment of the world, but Weber is pessimistic about the future. Unlike Marx, he doesn't think revolution or collapse of the system very likely. This is because the rationality, the basic idea which supports capitalism, is very necessary for human activity in the modern world. The progress of science and technology and the human quest to gain control over nature and the world are processes that cannot be reversed. So these are the words of Max Weber. Hence, revolutions and rebellions cannot fundamentally change the direction in which society is moving. While Marx emphasizes the irrationality and contradiction in the capitalism, which will, according to him, lead to the change. Weber speaks of rationality. It is this very rationality, however, which imprisons human beings in two iron cages. So you have to remember the terms. Thus, Marx and Weber consider capitalism using different approaches. Marx studies in terms of historical stages which society passes through. Capitalism emerges as a result of the contradiction in the earlier stage, brings about a new mode of production. Weber to emphasize on economic factors like Marx, but his understanding of capitalism is much more complex, taking into account the value system and beliefs in keeping with his interpretative understanding of social phenomena. Interpretative understanding, these terms we have studied in Weber chapter. Both thinkers point out that capitalism has negative consequences for human society.